Well, everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. Very, very exciting to have you all here. Um, we are going to be talking all about how to turn content sites into six-figure assets, which I know we've got a lot of interested people in the audience today, which is very, very exciting. So some background, we'll introduce ourselves here, if I can change the slide. So I'm Stephanie Veal. I'm one of the brokers here at Flippa, and my role is to help business owners like yourselves to sell your business. I also help on the buy side as well, but majority on the sell side. And throughout my career, I've worked on deals anywhere from $100,000 all the way up to $10 million. So big range in asset size there. And at Flippa, we sell a lot of content sites, but we don't just do content sites. We sell anything that is digital. So e-commerce, YouTube channels, newsletters, apps, etc. But today, of course, we will be focusing on content sites. Gavin, I'll pass it over to you to do a quick intro as well.
Great. Thank you, Steph. Yeah, my name is Gavin. I'm with Ezoic. If you're not familiar with Ezoic, Ezoic is a leader in the space for website owners and content creators to earn money through display ads. You may have not noticed it, but you'll see our ads today across some of the largest and most premium brands across the web. So keep an eye out for that. I've actually been with Ezoic for over a decade now. I've been helping lots of content owners, publishers, we call them in this space. And I also have experience on the other side. I've successfully acquired and exited some digital assets on Flippa. So I think that gives me a unique perspective that I hope to share my insights with you all today. And fun thing about Steph and myself, we actually did a road series together, Flippa and Ezoic. Those were in-person meetups across the United States. They also have global events. But if any of you are looking for an in-person meetup outside of this webinar, you should definitely look up the Flippa exit meetups in cities around the world. Super great way to meet other people who are buying and selling assets like everyone here today.
Absolutely. Good point, Gavin. If you join the Flippa newsletter, you'll get alerted to when we're having meetups. So they're always a really good time, and you get to meet interesting people like Gavin at these events as well.
And
fantastic. And a free happy hour. That's it. There's always lots of drinks and food.
Yeah, I'll touch on the agenda real quick and then hand it off to Steph to kick things off. But yeah, as Steph mentioned, from the Flippa side, she'll be sharing the six-figure content site playbook. And then we'll pass it back to myself, and I'll talk about some traffic and revenue growth tactics. Specifically, I'm going to be sharing and focusing on one strategy today that I think is really valuable, and everyone who has a content site or any kind of asset or website for that matter should be thinking about if they are not already. So definitely stay tuned for that. And then hand it back to Steph to talk about planning for that profitable exit, if that's your goal. But of course, a lot of the strategies today will be about also growing and scaling your business if you plan to keep it. And then hopefully we'll have a few minutes at the end for Q&A.
Absolutely. And guys, if you have questions, please feel free to put them in the chat, and we can get to them at the end. We've got Alyssa here who will also be moderating, and we'll take note of any of those questions. Fantastic. All right. So as Gavin mentioned, I'm going to start by looking at what makes a content site valuable in 2025. I'll share some real world success stories so that you can see what a great exit looks like in practice. We'll cover the valuation factors so you know what to focus on as you grow. And then I'll walk you through what the sale process looks like from start to finish. So a question I get asked all the time is, what makes a content site valuable in 2025? How should I be thinking about growing my business so that I can exit for multiple six figures? And look, I think it's worth noting we're talking about selling for six figures in this call today, but don't stop there. Many of the content sites we're selling are selling for 7 or 8 figures. So six figures is just the starting point and a great place to start. So when buyers are evaluating a content site, so there are 4 big drivers that buyers are looking for. So the first being revenue consistency and diversification. So having multiple income streams like display ads, affiliate programs, sponsorships, maybe even digital products, that's going to really help to build the stability of the site and the trust in the future revenue for the business. Second, we've got strong SEO. So not just traffic volume, but defensible rankings and content quality that can withstand algorithm updates. So when I'm speaking to buyers, one of the biggest concerns that I hear is buyers concerned about Google algorithm changes, being at the mercy of Google. And so anything that you can be doing to shore that up and protect yourself and defend yourself from that is going to really help you stand out when comparing your business to other content sites on the market. And third, niche authority. So becoming the go-to source in your space. So whether that's through expert content, unique data, or a loyal community, and we'll get to some of those in the success stories. But having a really good niche is very, very important. And again, goes to that defensibility. And fourth, we've got high quality, authoritative content. So evergreen articles, and Gavin will speak to this as well, but evergreen articles that rank really well, that build trust and are bringing people back over time. The stronger these 4 elements are, the higher the buyer confidence and the higher the multiple that buyers will be willing to pay as well. So that's how we value a content site. And all of these factors will be going into what kind of multiple you can essentially command when selling your business. So let's start with typingtest.com. Put in the chat if you've ever used this website. I know that I used this when I was in school. I used typingtest.com. And this is one of the reasons why it's such an exceptional business. Yeah, a whole bunch of people use this. And why it sold for $2.5 million. So this was a 25-year-old ed tech site focused on improving typing skills. It had over 3.2 monthly users and was generating around $550,000 in annual revenue. So from a buyer's perspective, I'm sure you can all imagine, this was absolute gold. This was a rare opportunity for buyers. So you've got a massive, stable traffic in an evergreen niche. So everyone from students, job seekers, professionals can benefit from typing speed tests. It's such a broad audience that it's highly defensible, right? So what really pushed this deal over the top was the strategic fit. So the buyer, as you can see here, Ali Aidar, he was from sporkle.com, based in San Francisco. The seller was actually based in Finland, which is one of the amazing things about Flippa being a global platform with a global network of buyers. We have over 2 million buyers in our network, and they are all over the world. And so this is just one of the many stories of buyers buying assets from very different places of the globe. So Ali made a profile on Flippa and said, I'm from Sporkle and I'm looking to acquire something similar in the education niche. Now, he already had Sporkle, which was in the quiz and education space. So this acquisition gave them instant cross-promotion opportunities, a huge new audience, and a trusted brand that they could build on. And so this is a perfect example of how longevity, traffic stability, and alignment with a buyer's existing portfolio can lead to a premium sale. All about cookies. You may have heard about this one as well. This one sold for 7.2 times adjusted net profit, which is huge. This is massive. I wouldn't be going into selling your business right now with that expectation. This was a couple of years ago, but it certainly does happen for exceptional sites. So this was a 13-year-old website, which again, this longevity is one of the factors that go into commanding such a high multiple. A 13-year-old website in the cybersecurity and GDPR compliance niche. It ranked in the Moz Top 500, had an outstanding backlink profile, and the standout stat was that 93% of its traffic was direct. So that means that almost all visitors were coming straight to the site without relying on Google search, which buyers love because, as I said earlier, it reduces the risk of traffic drops from algorithm changes. So this is something that you should be really thinking about as you're building your content sites and thinking about an exit. So it was monetized primarily through AdSense and totally passively. It had very low maintenance requirements and sat in a high value niche where advertisers paid premium rates. So as you can understand, for the buyer, this was essentially a set and forget asset with reliable income, significant upside potential through affiliate sponsorships and premium ad networks. So I think I saw someone in the questions there ask, how do we value a business? And I'll go into that briefly now. So you can see here, these are the multiples that different content sites have sold for over time. So on Flippa, we're typically seeing annual profit multiples between 2.5 and 4.5. And in the top 10% of content site deals in 2025, we're averaging around the 4.16 multiple. So that, for those of you who are new to this space, that's going to be take your annual net profit, times it by 4, and that is what the top content sites were selling for in the first half of 2025. So what goes into your multiple? How do you know whether you're going to be at that 2.5 range or that 4.5 range? That's going to come down to a number of factors. So what is your financial performance like? Is your profit stable? Is it growing? Is it declining? If it's declining, that's going to be a little bit of a red flag for some buyers. There are certainly buyers who will still purchase declining assets, but it is going to push you down to that lower end of the multiple range. If you're growing or stable, that's going to push you higher because that's exactly what buyers are looking for. Traffic and engagement. Are you attracting the right audience? What is your audience quality like? What's their location? What are the demographics? What's their loyalty like? What's your SEO and domain authority like? Your backlink profiles, your rankings, and your brand trust. And then, of course, the age of the site as well. So older and established sites with clean histories tend to get much higher valuations. And on Flippa, you can list your business, I believe, if you've been around for 6 months, but I would recommend having at least a year of solid financial history before going to market. And of course, the older, the better. So we're seeing demand for content sites is growing at the moment. And we've got YouTube and content there up 31% year-over-year increase in sales. And our network of, as I said, we've got over 2 million buyers currently with a combined liquidity of $97 billion. So the average buyer is certainly looking right now, and they're looking for these growing asset types. And the appetite is certainly there. It's just about positioning your asset to stand out in the market. You can see here, we publish all of our data on Flippa. So you can go to flippa.com/data insights, and see what are the search terms that people are looking for. So Flippa has a search engine, and it's a really great way of us learning about where is the demand right now for different asset types. And you can see here, AdSense is the 4th largest search term. We've got blogs and affiliates there as well. If you combine all those together, content sites are very highly in demand right now. We have many buyers with cash actively looking for really solid content sites on the market. You can see as well, Shopify, these are the e-commerce businesses, lots of demand for those. YouTube and AI, of course, as well. So anything you can be doing to leverage that data is going to be very helpful. So I'll pass over to Gavin now. Thank you, Gavin.
Thank you, Steph. Great presentation. And I think that segues nicely into what I'll be talking about next. We will have a recording sent out after the call as well to that question in the comments there. So yeah, I'm going to shift gears here a little bit, changing color scheme as well. If you missed it at the beginning, Ezoic is a platform for website owners and content creators to monetize their properties or their websites through display ads. And it sounds like we do have a lot of content interested folks. So I'm curious in the comments, how are people monetizing today? Are a lot of you using AdSense? Are you using another ad network? Or are you using affiliates, subscriptions? If a few folks can leave a comment, I'm interested to hear how you're monetizing today. AdSense, affiliate programs, Ezoic, Mediavine. All right, a little bit of everything. Guest posts. Great, really interesting audience that we have here. Facebook, yeah, it's been a big and up and coming one lately. So today, what I primarily want to talk about is strategies that we're seeing help shape both your traffic and your revenue. So there's one key one that I'll be sharing about, and we'll get into that here as I go through the next slides here. I'm pretty sure I can click through. I may need a little help from your end, Stephanie. And as we're going through that kind of opening, what Steph shared is that many of you are asking how to make your properties defensible. You're wondering how AI affects content sites. So that's the first thing that I'll get into here. I don't think this is new, but in the last year or so, many of you who go on Google or any search engine, you'll notice that search results have shifted further down the page. And what that's being dominated by are AI overviews. So those are at the top of the page. And of course, there's other LLM models. There's ChatGPT, there's Perplexity, there's Anthropic, you name it. So this is causing difficulty to rank in traditional search where you may have used to appear. That's been a challenge for some content sites, but there's also a big opportunity there. And that's how you have to think about changing your strategy. And before I get into the strategy that you should begin thinking about to make your business more defensible and increase that multiplier that Steph talked about, the next slide here will show you how AI has actually been impacting the traditional search results. So this is a study from last year, but jumping from 2022 to 2024, the number of people that were comfortable seeing AI in their search results jumped from 4% to 74%. And then on the left, you'll actually see that the number of results that actually return AI in your query is about 2/3 of all results. And 1/3 are still those non-traditional or those traditional results that we typically saw in the past. And one more click, you'll see that what this has led to is an overall decrease in website search engine visibility. So with that in mind, we need to think about how can we get consistent traffic sources or consistent traffic to our website, which is not only going to be relevant for traffic, but also your revenue, especially as you scale with ads. So in the next slide, we're going to see a big return in the newsletter. I don't know if anyone here has a newsletter. If you do, these stats are actually from Beehive, which is a new newsletter platform. And what this shows is the number of emails sent out, specifically at least here on Beehive, is growing exponentially year over year. But if we zoom out from that and don't even talk about Beehive, the number of emails that are sent per year, we're on pace by 2027 to have about 5 billion email users worldwide. And that's over 50% of the world's population. So if you're sitting out there and you think email is an outdated or old strategy, then you would be mistaken. Some of the biggest acquisitions today are actually happening in the newsletter and website space when they're combined together. And what you may not realize, and Steph could speak more about this, but a new asset class on Flippa are newsletters. So if you have a website and you either don't have a newsletter or you are struggling to grow your newsletter, then purchasing a newsletter on Flippa is a great way to really get that consistent traffic source. Is that right, Steph? You guys have some of those assets for sale?
Yeah, absolutely. They're selling very well. So if you're sitting on a newsletter, that's a great asset as well.
Yeah. So yeah, and I bring that up because newsletters are an excellent traffic source for a website. If you've lost some traffic from Google search, a newsletter is a way to gain that back and get it consistently. And how does this translate to revenue? That's what this slide is meant to share. There's a big difference here between first party and third party data. So I'll share what that is initially. First party data is anything that's a known commodity. So if you have an email list, if you have a phone number, or if you have users logging into your website, these are all identifiable traits. So user arrives to your website from a text, they arrive by clicking a link from a newsletter. That is first party data. Those are identified users. On the flip side of that, we have third party data, what has commonly been referred to as cookies. So that's an unknown commodity. You don't own the information of those users. And what that means in advertising is they're more uncertain about that kind of user and they'll pay less for it. So we have in the next slide here, this kind of paints a good illustration. One back, please. Yeah, so this is kind of a fun meme that we have here. But at the top is probabilistic or third-party data. So let's say I have some data on Steph. She likes going to the beach, but I'm really not that sure about it. On the other hand, at the bottom, we have first-party data. That's deterministic data. So I know that Steph logged in to book a flight to Maui yesterday. She clicked on 3 beach resort ads for the Hilton, and we know a lot about her. So that's what an advertiser is willing to pay for, and that's what we call that thirst for first party data. And what this does is if you have a content site and you're running ads, it makes the ads significantly more valuable. And again, this is when a user clicks or logs into your website and clicks from a newsletter to a website. So what does that increase actually look like? We have a case study of our own. So on the left, what you'll see is this is the same website, mind you, but the type of visitor is divided into, is this user arriving from first party or identified data? Again, text, email, or login. or are they arriving from a third-party source like a search engine, perhaps Facebook, something that is unknown? And the difference in the RPM, so the revenue per thousand views that you would receive, is staggering. It's about 3x increase for any user that is identified, coming from a newsletter, coming from a text, things like that. So this is something that can make your asset a lot more valuable. I know personally for me, it made a huge difference when I was selling one of my websites on Flippa. It increased the multiple significantly. And if you're not looking to sell it, it's going to also allow you to scale and increase your monthly income significantly as well. The one comment that I will say on this is you do need to have a fair amount of users arriving to your site who are identified. So if you have, 1 million visitors per month, you start a newsletter and you only have a few subscribers, that isn't going to move the needle that much. What you should aim for is having about 25% or more of your audience identified. So what that means for you is growing your first party list if you don't have one, or perhaps looking to Flippa to buy a newsletter that aligns with your audience so you can begin taking advantage of the first party data available in that medium. So as I kind of wrap up these slides a little bit here, my main takeaway is to build and leverage first party data. That's really the strategic vision that people should be thinking about if you have a content site. Start or grow your newsletter, add some form of authentication. So a login portal on your website. An easy way to do this is through Google One Tap or single sign-on. So that's something you can set up quite easily and capture that information. And then lastly, you do want to be able to use what it's called an identity protocol, but this is what passes your first party data to advertisers. Not many ad networks provide that. Ezoic is a leader in first party data, so we have that available. It's very easy to set up, but this is something that all publishers should be thinking about in the content space.
And Gavin, just a quick question. What is the difference between Ezoic and other ad providers?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's one that I get asked pretty frequently. I would say at bare minimum, the first thing you want to look at is when you're choosing any app provider, not just Ezoic, is you want to be working with what's called a Google Premier Partner. And there's actually only 3 of those that are based in the US. Ezoic being one of them, and the other 2 being Raptive and Mediavine. So any of these would be a huge upgrade over AdSense. But what I will say about Ezoic when it comes to this first party data that I've just talked about is we really are the leaders in the first party data monetization. In fact, I think we were the first ad provider to offer this, and the others kind of followed suit afterwards. The way that we leverage first party data, I believe, is the most comprehensive, flexible, and easy to use and manage. Without getting too technical, we have a one-click integration with all of the major email service providers. So Beehive that I mentioned, MailChimp, Kit, ActiveCampaign. So those are the things that I would think would really differentiate Ezoic. And then if I can add one more point there, I think there has been, for people who haven't looked at Ezoic in some time, there have been some misconceptions out there in the market. And what we've done in the last few years is we've invested a lot in infrastructure and advertising relationships. So for example, today you can get started with Ezoic with a simple line of JavaScript. And then on the advertising side, we've partnered with all of the major header bidders and premium advertising partners out there to bring you the best ad inventory possible on your sites. So with that, I would say Ezoic is, in my opinion, the most advertiser-friendly and website-friendly provider out there. So I'll kind of leave it at that. And then even if you aren't a content-focused site, which I think most people on here today do run content sites, but if you don't, I did want to share one new trend that we've seen picking up a lot of steam lately. And we have two figures on the slide here, 1.98 billion and $50 million. Does anyone take a wild guess, if you want to, what those might mean, but I'll reveal it here in a moment. If we can get 2 clicks to reveal the logos, Amazon, good guess. But this is actually Netflix and Duolingo. So those figures are the amount of revenue that Netflix and Duolingo get from ads per year. So obviously they have big subscription businesses, people pay for their services, but about 10% of their overall revenue comes from ads. So think about this, if you're a $1 million a year business, so that's $100,000 a month, and you don't use ads today, you could put ads on your site and start getting an extra 10% lift, so $10,000 per month. And that's why we've seen a lot of SaaS and e-com sites turning to ads as a new revenue source. And it makes a lot of sense to me because if you have a paid offering, what we often see is the majority of users that visit your website or your service, they're actually free users who don't convert. So if you're asking users to upgrade or buy something, only about 5% of them convert. And then you have all these other people who are accessing your content for free. So you can introduce ads, you can make revenue from them, and perhaps incentivize them to pay for your premium offering to get the ad-free version. That's what we've seen from Netflix and Duolingo, and I think it's an interesting strategy to consider. I'll leave it at that before I turn it back to Steph. And if you are interested in scaling your traffic and revenue and moving from third to first place, first party data, I'll leave this up for a moment, but there's my QR code on LinkedIn, as well as my email below that. So you can reach out and I'd be happy to help you learn more about this. And we'll answer some questions at the end as well.
Fantastic, Gavin. That was excellent. I'll leave it up for a second so everyone can get that QR code, but we'll make sure we send our details to everyone afterwards as well. Yeah, of course. Fantastic. Well, so after you've worked with Gavin to scale your content side and bring in all that cash, now's a really good time to think about preparing for a profitable exit. So one of the biggest mistakes, honestly, that I see business owners make is waiting until you're ready to sell before thinking through how to get your house in order. So I totally get it. I see it all the time. Sellers get burnt out. And then that's when they're like, Steph, help me sell my business. But what I really want to encourage you to do today is to be thinking about the exit throughout the process of building your business. So even while you're chatting to Ezoic, you're building your content monetization, etc. You want to be thinking about how will this look when I'm ready to exit. And you may be thinking, well, I don't even want to sell my business. That's totally fine. Often what we see is the factors that go into building a exit ready business are also the factors that go into building a really excellent business to continue running. So things like getting your financials in order are going to make you run a better business anyway. So you're kind of killing two birds with one stone there. So before you're ready to list on Flippa, or before you're ready to even contemplate selling I would recommend that you have at least a trailing 12-month profit and loss statement. This is really, really important. And I saw someone put in the chat there before, how do we value a content site, as I touched on earlier, but it's going to be based on that trailing 12-month P&L. So we like to see a month-by-month breakdown. What's the seasonality of the business? I'm representing a food blog right now, and as you can imagine, it's a lot more profitable in the summer. People are entertaining and they're making a lot of dishes. They're on holidays. It's vacation time. So we want to be able to understand what is the seasonality of the business, how consistent is it, and that's what we can learn by looking at the month-by-month breakdown. Any contracts you have, whether that is with suppliers that you're working with or staff, if you have contractors that you hire, we want to see those contracts as well, any agreements you have, partnerships, etc. And then we're going to take a look at your metrics. So your traffic history, your RPMs, your email list performance, subscriber growth, engagement rates, all of those things. And as I said, if you're keeping an eye on these points, you're going to be building a better business anyway. And it will also be one that will get a higher profit multiple and also likely sell quicker as well. So having these ready will definitely not only speed up the sale, as I said, but will also give buyers more confidence to make those stronger offers, which I know everyone wants. So I might have jumped a slide here. No, we're on track. But a question I get often is, how do I know as a buyer that the information I'm seeing online is accurate? So if I go to flippa.com, I'm looking to buy a content site. How do I know that the numbers they're telling me are legitimate and that I can trust them? We have a whole bunch of integrations on Flippa, which show up on the Flippa listing. So these are all to help build that trust and integrity in the listing. And very excitingly, earlier this year, we launched an integration with Ezoic. So another reason to be building with Ezoic, so that when you're ready to exit, we have that all set up for you. So this means you can see here on the right, the Flippa listing will show the exact numbers that you're getting from Ezoic. So none of those numbers are made up. We're pulling it directly from the Ezoic platform.
Yeah,
Gavin, do you have anything to add on that? Yeah.
Yeah, we just launched it earlier this year. But what you'll see there is verified both traffic and revenue.
Yeah.
So kind of the same way that it pulls in AdSense or Google Analytics, you'll get that directly from Ezoic's dashboard and totally verified, and just more information to have whether you are buying, it's verified, or if you're selling, you can put that up there without having people ask you too many questions about your asset.
Exactly. Yeah. And then you get that little verified listing badge as well, which both bumps you up in the search on Flippa, and again, gives more credibility to your listing. So very exciting to have this partnership with Ezoic. So once you're ready to sell your content site, here's how our process usually looks. So the average sales cycle, I'd say, is between 3 and 6 months. That's from listing live to business sold. It can take a lot. It can go a lot quicker than that. It can also take a lot longer. And the factors that go into that are having all of those factors ready, having your financials in order, having the data in order, having the proof, etc. And then also we're going to have how ready you are to engage in that process. Gavin, just checking, can you still hear me? I've got something going on with the sound on my end here.
Yeah, all good.
Okay, fantastic. So step 1, we've got the company valuation. So this is where we jump on a call. I jump on a call with you and we review the last 3 years of your P&L. As I said, we're going to perform a valuation based on the last 12 months, but a buyer will want to see a previous 3 years worth of financials. We're going to compare it to similar market comps and provide an indicative valuation. So we'll give you a range of where we think your business could likely sell for. We're going to populate your data rooms. This is where we collate all of the information that buyers are going to need, and we want to have that ready before a buyer asks for it. Create a digital SIM. This is your listing, and do a seller interview. We then move into buyer discovery. So that's where we would use our AI buyer matching tool, which we have on Flippa, to make sure we're targeting the right buyers with the right sellers, and doing some targeted outreach to relevant buyers as well. So we have a whole bunch of marketing outreach that we do to make sure that we're finding the perfect buyer for your business. Step 4 is negotiations. This is where you would be making use of your broker. We would be negotiating for the best offer. Ideally, we have a competitive bidding process, and we will be negotiating those LOIs. And once we've solidified the LOI, we'd move into the due diligence process. So this is where a buyer is going to be verifying those financials, verifying the traffic, the operations, etc. And that's where those integrations with Ezoic come in very handy as well. And then finalization, we're going to be preparing the asset purchase agreement, the final contract, setting up the escrow, and transferring the asset. So that's a very high level overview of what to expect from the selling process. And of course, throughout all of this, we'd be doing regular check-ins to make sure that we're on track, and regularly updating the listing with any financial changes. And I would say, when you list your business, this is the perfect time to continue running it as best as you possibly can. So listing your business doesn't mean, oh, great, it's sold, I can take a step back. No, we want to see that your business is continuing to grow, or at least maintaining stability during this time. So who is going to buy your content site? Again, this is a question I get all the time. And our buyers are quite a big mix of different buyers. So we've got family offices, got institutional buyers, strategic acquirers, as we saw with Sporkle, and then a lot of experienced operators and individual buyers. So I saw some of you were looking to buy a content site. It could be someone like me. I want to buy a content site to run on the side as a side hustle, right? That could be something that I do. We've got many buyers looking to do similar things, and many buyers looking to create portfolios of assets. So the average buyer on Flippa does have 6 businesses in their portfolio. So a lot of these buyers are repeat buyers, and they are looking to expand. We have only over $97 billion in liquidity. That's on Flippa. That's active liquidity. So that's buyers who are looking to deploy that cash right now and buy up really excellent digital assets. And 400,000 active weekly buyers. These are the buyers who are actively searching on Flippa at any given time. So as I said, we've got family offices, institutional and strategic buyers worldwide. These buyers are all over the planet. So we saw with typingtest.com, we had a seller in Finland and a buyer in San Francisco. This is just one of many stories that's happening all the time, which is very, very cool. And these are some of the strategic buyers that we have on Flippa currently, or who have already done deals. So Forbes, Launch Potato, they've done a number of deals on Flippa. So if you are wanting to sell your content site, if you'd like to have a conversation about what that would look like, if you would like me to take a look at your P&L and do an indicative valuation, I'm always happy to have a conversation. The best time to have that conversation is before you're ready. If you're ready right now, then totally fine. Also happy to have a conversation. But if you're thinking of doing this in the next few months, then now's a really good time to start that conversation. So you can reach out to me at stephanie.veal@flippa.com, and that's my meeting link there as well. Fantastic. I'll leave that up for a second. And I think we're going to jump into some Q&As with the last few minutes we've got here, Gavin.
Perfect. Yeah. Should we go through some of the questions in the chat? or the Q&A. I know Alyssa was answering some of the questions as well during the webinar.
Yeah, I guess we can kind of scroll through the chat here.
Hey, Steph.
Yeah, Alyssa.
In the Q&A specific box, we had one earlier from Javon, which is definitely one for you. If you can't
Awesome.
see it. Yeah, it says, I wish Flippa transfer payment in Indian rupees for selling sites. India is a big market for Flippa. I had big hassles getting paid in USD via my bank. Indian bank have strict policies receiving foreign currency. When is Flippa planning to introduce Indian rupee as payment currency?
That is an excellent question. I'd say that's a little bit above my pay grade at Flippa, but I can certainly chat to the product team about that and get back to you, because that's a really excellent question. I know we have a huge market in India. So yeah, great question. I know we pay out in a number of different currencies though. So I'm surprised that you weren't able to do it in rupees, because I believe that's something that we do currently. I'm pretty sure, but I can get back to you about that. If you want to send me an email as well, I'll connect you with the product team and we can get you an answer. So my email is stephanie.veal@flippa.com, and I'll put that in the chat here.
Yeah, and I can take that question from Karen about, with Ezoic, can we sell ad space directly to our existing clients, or are we restricted to using the ad network ads? And the answer is yes, you absolutely can continue to sell ad space directly. Anything that you do there, we do not maintain any exclusivity over. So Ezoic only comes in to handle the programmatic, but any direct campaigns that you do, you can continue to run on your own. You can even actually have them run through Ezoic's ad server if you want. But yeah, we won't stop you from doing that. That's not a problem. And then, yeah, just going through some of the other questions, it looks like Andra got an answer about a ticket.
Dan asked, what's the minimum annual revenue required versus just a DIY listing on Flippa? So Dan, if you're wanting to just list your business on Flippa, you can do that with as little as $100 in revenue. You can probably do it with no revenue, I believe. But you will be restricted in terms of what kind of valuation you can ask for. So it does need to be within somewhat the market range. We're reasonably generous with that, but it needs to be a realistic valuation. If you'd like me to represent your business for you, or if you're eligible for the broker package, then the minimum deal size is $100,000. So that would put your annual profit ideally around 50K, and then you would be able to work with a broker.
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah, looks like some of the questions in there were just around data and email service providers. So I'll reiterate that Ezoic works easily with all of them, from Kit to Beehive to MailChimp. And about the storage of the data, that's always private and hashed. So Ezoic never sees that. The advertiser never sees that. So you don't have to worry about, like, you have this list that you're giving away. We use secure hashing protocols, so it's never seen, but it has the ability to be matched up with advertisers and get you that premium CPM that you deserve.
Fantastic. And there was another question from Karen. Gavin, with Ezoic, can we sell ad space directly to our existing clients, or are we restricted to using the ad network ads?
Oh, I got that one already.
Oh, sorry.
Let's see, she had another one about, does Ezoic perform well
Does Ezoic perform well?
Predominantly UK audience? Definitely. Ezoic performs really well, especially for what we call tier 1 traffic. So that would be UK, United States, Australia, countries like that. So yeah, basically most countries in Europe, Canada, but we're also very global. So if you have traffic from India or Asia, Ezoic will perform well across all verticals. And we also have different campaigns running based upon your geolocation. And I think Tammy had a site about or a question about Flippa for you.
Tammy, do Flippa buyers have an appetite for Pinterest traffic-driven content sites monetized by ads? 100%. Honestly, Tammy, we have buyers looking for all kinds of assets. And if you go onto flippa.com, you'll see there's a huge range of asset types and how they're being monetized. So yes, I would say it comes down to how stable is it? How long have you been generating that traffic? And then being priced realistically. Those are the things I'd say there.
Yeah, and for Suresh's question about engagement, I'd have to dive into that a little bit more and look at how are you actually tracking engagement? Are you using Google Analytics both before and after? And then just really take a dive into that for you. But what I will say is Ezoic is designed to serve ads in a way that positively reflect with the user experience. So by no means is our service trying to put so many ads on the page that it would degrade the engagement time. So that's something, if you want to email me, Suresh, then I can take a closer look for you.
Fantastic. I had another one here. Marjorie, how do we represent startup costs and new development SDE in the valuation in a way that the buyer can see this? This is a really excellent question, Marjorie. We would be doing a valuation based on what are the expenses that a new buyer should expect to continue. So we see P&Ls all the time where sellers are including travel on their P&L and meals, their home rent, for example. There's lots of different tax things that people are doing, but those aren't going to be transferring over to a new owner. And so we would add that back into the P&L, into the profit. So similarly with startup costs. So if you're hiring someone to do web development for you to set yourself up at the beginning, that cost wouldn't transfer over to a new owner. So we would typically add that back in to the P&L. But of course, that depends. If a software engineer or you've got some kind of designer who is regularly needed to maintain the site, then that would be a necessary expense. I hope that answers that question. It's quite nuanced and it depends on the situation. So many questions. Great.
Yeah, I think Alyssa's getting to a lot of the ones in the chat. But yeah, basically there are varying levels of service at Ezoic. Based upon your traffic and revenue levels, you may have a dedicated account manager. It may be more of a self-service option. But those are the main, I guess, different levels. There's not a minimum for any publisher or site that wants to use Ezoic.
Fantastic. I think we've got them all. Nate asked, what is Flippa's typical broker fee for listing a business? Yep, we're very, very transparent about that. You can go to flippa.com/pricing. It's all on our website. You can take a look. We have a listing fees that covers all the work that we go into building the listing and doing the marketing for you. And then there's a success fee on the successful sale of the business. Alyssa's on it. Fantastic. Happy to chat more if anyone has any questions about that after the call.
Great. Well, unless there's any other questions, I think we're coming up on the hour. Appreciate the level of engagement from everyone. That was a lot of fun, and hopefully you got a lot of value from our session today. And definitely reach out to either myself or Steph if you have questions about Ezoic or Flippa.
Yeah, thank you so much, everybody, for joining. Really, that was really awesome. And thank you, Gavin. That was fantastic and great to do it with you as well. And thank you, Alyssa, for moderating.